You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got us some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
God, I love being a turtle!
Cash rules everything around me. Cream get the money. Dollar bills, y'all.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith. The Disco Dork.
Miracles happen all the time.
What?
Disco.
I did it wrong.
It's like what?
Like what?
Benedict Cumberbatch becoming a sex symbol. I'm leaving that shit in there. God damn it. Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast.
This is why I'm not an actor, because I can't remember my lines.
Actually, one simple, you said fool. It's like what? Like what? And you seen the movie. It's from yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
Damn.
That's right. I do remember that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's the B&D show, Disco Turtle show, unofficially, as Wife Dork and Mouth Dork are asleep.
Yes, if that's what you want to call it.
No, well, that was my reason for absence last week, apparently. Which I was like, these motherfuckers, I'm asleep. I would have you know, I just want to, listeners, I want to set the record straight. Disco was not present last episode or last couple episodes because I left straight from Psychorama slumber, went and picked my daughter up, had a wonderful day at the pool, went out, had dinner with her, and then took her to the National Harbor, then came home. I didn't go to sleep till 3 a.m.
Yeah, that's right. You pretty much was up all weekend.
Yeah, while y'all was, Darren's not here because he's asleep. And I was like, these motherfuckers. So no, I wasn't asleep.
Well, happy anniversary to our fellow dorks celebrating their 10th anniversary. Hope they're having fun.
Yep. If you're following on social media, then you probably already know they're in Maine. So they're making all these pretty cool pit stops at all these different landmarks that were inspiration or featured in a bunch of Stephen King's adaptations and stuff like that. Him being from that area, so they're having a fun time. Follow them on social media if you aren't. At Instagram at Mouth Dork and at Sidewalk Siren. Check out their cool pictures via documentation in that way. In the meantime, how was your week in Dork, B?
Mine was actually pretty good, man. Saw a couple different movies I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about Idris Elba's directorial debut called Yardie. Now, this was a movie that the trailer came out for this last year, and I thought it was going to have a theatrical release. And for some reason, it just kind of slipped by, and I was like, wait a minute, what happened to that Idris Elba movie that he directed? Because I really liked that trailer.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I was going through Amazon Prime, and I saw it featured on the homepage of Amazon Prime when I was going through my Apple TV, and I was like, oh, shit, his movie just dropped on streaming.
Yeah.
So, you know, hopefully this wasn't some type of, what was the movie that got illegally
One Cut of the Dead.
I was like, well, hopefully this ain't no One Cut of the Dead type of
Should I watch it now? Should I wait?
So I put it in my queue, and I ended up watching it. And I gotta say, I was really impressed, at least by Idris Elba's directing. You can definitely tell that it is a first-time director. He does a lot of things where he does a lot of freeze frames and a lot of so it's like you could tell he's like one of these new directors that's just like is trying to find his style.
Yeah.
Where a lot of times it would just kind of be a little bit just easier just to tell the story. So I don't want to say it was a little bit distracting, but I did kind of notice that he's doing a little bit too much.
Well, because you got to think when first time filmmakers, like when I think you tend to, this is my first movie, so I want to tell my story, but I also there's so many different filmmakers and techniques that inspired me.
Exactly.
So I want to put an homage to those things in my first film. So maybe that's the case.
Could have been something like that. So the story, I'll just read this off of IMDb. British crime drama film directed by Idris Elba, based on a novel of the same name from Jamaican-born writer Victor Headley. So this is a film that is based in Jamaica. And it basically tells the story about, it's almost like these two rival gangs that are in Jamaica, and the main character is D, and he has an older brother who is like a DJ, and so they're trying to put on this party to kind of bring these two gangs together to kind of start this truce.
Yeah.
And during this party, his older brother gets shot and killed. And then that kind
sort of similar to, it reminds me of Warriors. So remember in Walter Hill's Warriors.
Ooh,
so
it's been a while since I've seen that.
So in that movie, Osiris he's a respected figure in the community, in the gang community, and he brings all these different gangs together.
Okay.
And he's like, all right, we need to unite instead of being separated, because we're stronger together. And while he's preaching this idea of unity, someone in the crowd shoots him, and it causes all the gangs to, the Warriors get blamed for it. And so it kind of reminded me of that, because at the party that D's brother put on, like you said, the two rival gangs, they were both there. People from both sides were there. He actually had the gang leaders up on stage with him, and then that tragedy strikes.
Yeah, so that leads D down the path of crime as he grows older, and then I think one of the leaders from one of the gangs, I can't remember the name of the gang, takes him under his wing.
Yeah.
But then he does something in Jamaica where he has to send him off to London, and then majority of the movie takes place in London, where he sends this brick of cocaine with him for him to sell to one of his other distributors. And then some stuff goes down, and then he meets up with the mother of his child, who was in London as well, and then the story kind of unfolds there. But I found it to be really intriguing, and a story really a story that you see the trauma of him dealing with the death of his brother, and him trying to reconcile with that, and then also reconcile with the mother of his child, and really trying to form a family bond with them, and also trying to dig himself out of this trouble that he's found himself in with this drug lord in London. So I don't know, and then also how it's infused with music, because we know that Idris Elba is also a DJ, and how he brings in a lot of the DJ elements into the movie. So to kind of make this kind of Jamaican London crime thriller drama, but it's kind of infused with kind of the Caribbean music and the DJ lifestyle, you could definitely see why he would want to tell this type of story, or even if that wasn't even part of the novel, why he would want to bring those elements into the story, because of his because of Idris Elba's love of being the DJ.
Well, their music is a huge part of their culture.
It very much so.
You can tell by just when they have the depiction of those parties and the sets, and just the dance, and how you have it takes something as simple as music to bring together these two people who have a history of, these two groups of people who have a history of killing each other, but because music is so ingrained in their culture, and that's true for a lot of cultures, so it's really no different. But yeah, it does make sense to have that particular element, and also with how much a part music plays in Idris Elba's life in real life.
Exactly. So yeah, definitely check that out if you get a chance. That is on Amazon Prime right now, and I think it's definitely worth a watch.
Speaking of Idris Elba, I know your Week in Dork also has a little bit of trailer reactions for Hobbs and Shaw. The final trailer came out.
Dude,
that thing was fire.
Dude, I'm telling. We talked about this when we were driving down to Winchester, like a week or so ago. We were talking about Hobbs and Shaw in the car.
Oh yeah,
and I was saying, dude, this movie is basically, if you're not on board with this movie, then it's just not for you. Because what they're showing in the trailer is what they're selling us. Yeah. I don't think they're selling us something that they're not going to give, that they're not going to deliver on. Yeah. And this trailer is the epitome of that for me. I mean, Yeah, I mean, if this is just not your brand of action or your brand of just movies that you enjoy, then it's not for you. But man, I tell you, this shit looks fucking incredible, dog. Like, oh my God, I don't know the shit that they're doing with that motorcycle.
Hold on, so the first time I watched it on my phone, right? So,
okay.
And I had the iPhone X, right?
Okay.
Okay. Humble brag. But anyway, the screen ain't the screen. The image on the screen it's good, but I was in my car on my lunch break when I watched it. So that scene, I thought
the first part?
No, the motorcycle part when he goes under the truck. I thought that he laid his bike down sideways and slid under it and then tipped it up and got back on. When I came home and watched that trailer on Apple TV on my TV, the bike freaking transforms a little bit. I was like, holy shit. Man,
it's like a smart bike or something.
Yeah, because there's another scene where it's rolling up without him on it and it comes to him.
Yeah, and then there's another quick shot where it's almost like he gets like either shot off his bike and the way the bike like rolls around and then he slides back on it and
yeah. Oh my goodness,
dude! Like I could just imagine dude. I can't wait. I cannot wait. We talk about David Leitch and Chad Stahelski, man. The stuff they're doing in the action genre is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And they kind of rejuvenated my love of the action genre, especially for Hollywood cinema. I mean, we got The Raid and other movies like that, and The Night Comes for Us. I keep forgetting the name of that movie sometimes because it's so. But in Hollywood, man, like the stuff they're doing with John Wick and stuff,
and with him saying, because he gave an update about the Wachowskis doing the next Matrix with Michael B. Jordan. He said that
is that really going to happen?
He said it's happening, and he said what excited me about that, outside of the fact that Michael B. Jordan, but he said he told him like he wants to be down in any capacity if he's got to be like a stunt person.
Chad Stahelski? David Leitch, or both of them?
Both of them, yeah. So I feel like my hope is that they're like the action consultants or choreographers for the next Matrix film, because you think about that, like within the Matrix, you take away all boundaries of reality. You can do whatever, and look at what they're doing in Hobbs and Shaw within the frames of a grounded realism. They're already doing some. You're stepping over the line of to heighten reality. So just imagine if they go full stop with like the Matrix.
I hope that
should be nuts.
I hope that happens.
That would be nuts.
God, man, I hope that happens because Chad Stahelski even mentioned that, well, he's stuck in this John Wick. I'm not going to say stuck because I love what they're doing with John Wick. Yeah. But he mentioned that he was going to do a remake of Highlander. And he wanted to do the stuff that he was doing with guns and John Wick with swords. And I was like, I can't even imagine what that would even look like. But if they can design something where they can use swords in the way that they're using guns in John Wick,
he probably already has. They've probably been screwing around in there. The stunt team was goofing off and like, yo, let's try this with some swords. Yo, what if I can apply this to like a Highlander movie? They probably already got something. He probably already has an idea of what he wants to do. And you know what? Like a movie like that, because you got to think, like they shoot those John Wick films relatively quick on a lower budget. Yeah, there's nothing for him to do that with swords.
Cool.
You know, in a Highlander movie. So he could probably do that in between the next John Wick film.
Bruh, yeah, you're right. He probably could.
And with the success of John Wick 3 in this franchise, he's probably got carte blanche. Like, what do you want to do?
Oh, hell yeah.
You want to make this little Highlander movie in between the next one? You just have to promise us to give us a fourth John Wick.
I know.
If you promise us that, we'll give you this Highlander in between. So I'm pretty sure. That'd be exciting. I didn't know about that, but that's pretty tight.
He was attached to it, but because of these John Wick movies and him talking about he wants to continue to do them. Yeah. So I don't know where Highlander is, but he did say that was like the next thing on his slate was like doing a remake of Highlander. But
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take that too. So last thing I want to mention is there's a 4-part docu-series on Showtime of Mics and Men, the Wu-Tang documentary. I saw the first hour, the first episode, and
it's on Showtime.
It's on Showtime. Okay. You can get Showtime through Amazon.
Okay.
As a Wu-Tang fan, and we were talking about this off air before we recorded, and then we started talking about this. This is a must-see. This thing is incredible, and I've only seen the first hour. So basically, the first hour, we really get introduced to all the different members of Wu-Tang Clan, and showing like where they grew up. They talk about where they grew up in Staten Island and Park Hill and in Stapleton, and you know, like growing up together, and then how they would just go to each other's houses and how they would go to school together and the different type of jobs that they had. I know Meth and U-God used to do janitor work at the Statue of Liberty, and they go back to the statue. They was like, man, it's like I used to work here and I never came and actually looked at the Statue of Liberty, and they went and visited their old boss, and so that was cool. And then because I think RZA, GZA, and ODB were cousins.
Yeah, they're related.
And so they talked about RZA and GZA and how like they were like the ones that kind of like spearheaded the whole thing. And RZA used to be Prince Rakim, and of course GZA was the genius and stuff like that. And so it just gets into like that whole thing. They talked about Ghostface and how he dealt with depression because as a kid he had his younger brother and sister had some type of condition, I can't remember what it was called, where they were kind of immobilized and they really couldn't go outside and stuff like that. So him as a kid, he had to take care of his brother and sister, and he didn't really know like what he was going through, but he talked about like how he was dealing with like depression because he had to take care of his younger brother and sister. Raekwon, like RZA was talking about how because it's so funny how each member of the group, the RZA would say how important they were to just the culmination of them as Wu-Tang. And he was like, Raekwon's flow, he was like, any record that we made, it never felt like an actual record until Raekwon actually spit on the record. And he was like, when I heard Raekwon, he's like, yeah, now it feels like a record. And it was like, it was pretty cool for him to give props to everybody. I want to think what else was in the piece. They talked a little bit about ODB in this episode, but not much. You get an interview with his family, like his brother and his mother, and just like how raw and how wild he was and stuff like that. But I think in future episodes they're going to get deeper into ODB. But then they were talking about like how they started like, you know, selling crack and stuff like that to really try to make money. And then when they made their first, the one thing they mentioned was there was a lot of racism that they dealt with going to school. And this was shocking to me because I'm thinking about the time period that this happened and where they were, because I guess Staten Island was kind of divided into like two different areas, and where they were going to school at, there was like the white kids. They would like be berating them and like talking like, it was like, oh, you know, you guys still playing basketball or selling crack and doing this and that. And you would think they was in like deep in the South in the 50s. The way that like there was like this division between white and blacks in New York City in like the late 80s. It's crazy.
I mean, you gotta think, man. You got like, because with all the different borough, you know, you got the Dominicans, you got the Haitians, you got the Italians, stuff like that.
They're talking about the Italians,
It makes sense,
That's crazy. So, and they were talking about, them walking to school and how like, and Raekwon was like, he's like, yeah, man, it's like these football players, like these big Italian, John Travolta looking motherfuckers, and then they would cut the grease, and like it was kind of funny the way they kind of poked fun at it, but they talked about how they focused on their music, and then when they did Protect Your Neck, and they talked to their first manager, who I think was also a relative of theirs, and they told this interesting story where they would shop the record to different record stores, and then there was this one record store, the lady was like, nah, it's like, I'm not gonna buy it. So the dude had this plan. He was like, he had a whole bunch of his boys come into the store, and it was like, yo, where's that Protect Your Neck? Like asking for it, and the lady was like, we don't have that. And then like the guy was like, oh, I got it here. And she was like, no, you can't sell that. And then she ended up buying the whole box of records so that they could sell it because there was so much of a demand. And he was like, he's like, I did that on every record store throughout the whole state of New York. He was like, we did that from New York all the way down to North Carolina. It just doing, and I was like, that shit was smart as hell.
Man.
To do that. And something else interesting about it too, where after Protection Net came out, they were trying to sign with different record labels. So they would go to Def Jam and all these different places, and then they would tell them, they was like, look, it was like, there's not much that we can do with 9 of y'all. It's like, it's just too many of y'all. And the one thing I like about it is the fact that they were like, look, either you take all of us or you don't take none of us.
Yeah.
It was like, because it was like, how you going to divide the money between 9 of y'all? And I think, who was it, Jizzle or somebody was like, they was like, why are y'all worried about how we going to divide the money up? Like, that's not your concern. But they was like, look, if you take all of us, you take none of us. And I like the fact that they stuck together like that, because you can definitely see the brotherhood that they had from the very beginning. I mean, growing up together, I mean, they felt like they've always had each other's backs.
Yeah.
Regardless, like, whatever kind of tension they may have had or infighting they may have had, like, they've always stuck together.
Yeah.
And I think that's always been what has stood the test of time. And I think why we identify with Wu-Tang, because we like all their individual personalities, but it's just like they come together, like they say, like Voltron, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, and I don't know, man. It just took me back to the '90s, man.
That shit had to been tight, because I know they were playing like some of the old cuts and stuff like that.
Dude, it was.
It's always a good thing to hear, like some old good hip hop, especially from that golden era, because that's the golden era. The '90s,
dude.
That's for us. That's our golden era,
dude. Yeah, and Jizzle was talking about how he studied under what they called the 5 percenters, which was I think it was Allah, who separated from Elijah Muhammad from the Muslim the Nation of Islam, and the 5 percenters would teach about the mathematics. It was something that he went through, like the mathematics philosophy, where it was like knowledge, freedom, and all these different things. And he brought that to RZA, and they studied that, and where especially after going through like the racial tensions in Staten Island, like they would read the definition of the original man, and the original man was the Asiatic black man. And so it's like just hearing like how knowledgeable these men were, man. Like, they weren't just like, I mean, yeah, they came from like the gutters and the grimes and all that stuff, but like these dudes were like studying, you know what I'm saying?
And that was one of the things that appealed to us, as young black men, is that they were kicking rhymes that they didn't sound like anybody else, and the beats that RZA made sounded like nothing else in hip hop.
Yeah.
But also when the stuff that they were saying was. It was they had your Bobby Head stuff, they had the stuff to get you amped up, but they would also kick knowledge. They would also have that stuff infused in their rhymes all the time. And
I ain't gonna lie, like back then, like some of that stuff went over my head. And maybe I was just too young, and I was listening to it, and I would pick up on some of the rhymes. But like when you start still listening to them, like you're like, man, these brothers was really like speaking on some real shit back then.
It was music with substance. It was music with substance, as opposed to just rhyming about money, cars, and girls and stuff like that.
Exactly.
It was. I mean, they had that in there too, but their stuff was well rounded. It was information about like the 5%, and it was information about the history of man, especially the black man, the history that is not taught in inner city and urban schools and the books and stuff like that. So that was one of the things I appreciated about Wu-Tang.
Yeah, man. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and like you were saying, that's the golden age of hip hop, and it's just like the '90s, man, was just like, you look at all the rappers and you look at music now, where you just don't have that substance in music.
And there's no diversity. Everyone all the hip hop is like trap music. Migos sounds like friggin' Fetty Wap. Fetty Wap sounds like Future. Future sounds like this next person.
And that's exactly what we were talking. I was talking to my man last night, and we were talking about different regions and how you would have different sounds from each region. And it wasn't even like which rapper was better than the other. It was more like, what's your preference? Because like you would have the West Coast sound, and then you have the East Coast sound, but then like you could like Wu-Tang, or you could like Biggie, or you can go down south and you had Scarface and the Ghetto Boys. You had a different sound from Outkast.
Even within a region, you had different sounds, because Wu-Tang didn't sound like Bad Boy and Biggie.
Exactly.
Biggie didn't sound like J. Rue the Damager. And then in the South, Outkast didn't sound like Scarface.
Exactly.
And on the West Coast, you had Snoop, and then you had Snoop didn't sound like NWA.
Nope.
So we had such a diverse palette to choose from in hip hop. Like so many, like Baskin Robbins. Like you had so many different flavors.
It's a buffet. You can choose whatever you want, and that's what I loved about hip hop. And going to your point, like now everything sounds the same.
Yeah.
Like there's no diversity in the sound of how people rap, because it's almost like. Because nowadays it just feels like everybody's looking for the next hit. You know, what's the next big dance or the next big sound or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was talking to my man last night, like, when did that change? Because I think our era of hip hop was like the 90s, even like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I was thinking it was funny. I was talking to my man. I kind of pinpointed that it felt like the shift was around 08, 09 when Soulja Boy came out with that Superman. And it was around that time when it started to change.
Soulja Boy was like the first viral, hip hop artist, because he did the ring. He took the ringtone thing. He came out with that particular hit and coined that dance, and that was when you started having that era of hip hops and have it centered around a particular dance, and that dance going viral, so that song going viral.
Yep. And
then from there it just changed. But that was probably it.
Yeah.
That was probably it.
Yeah, it was. That seems like that's when the shift started to change around 08, 09. And I'm just like, man, I miss. I don't know. It's funny. Like, I feel like an old head because now it feels like I'm just listening to music from our era of hip hop now.
I don't listen to the radio at all.
Yeah,
like I don't listen to the radio.
Yeah.
I have my '90s playlist of my music.
Yeah,
so I gotta check that documentary out. Dude. Even if I gotta get like a trial subscription to Showtime or whatever.
Yeah, do it, man. Because it is. If you're a fan, and I know, like, I thought about you. I was like, man, this dude, the way you be spitting out, just you were doing it before we recorded.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, you need to see this docu-series because you will love it. You will absolutely love it being the wu-tang.
I like that it was a docu-series because like if you're gonna dive into the history of the Wu-Tang Clan, which, like you said, is 9 members. Yeah. And you could have just focused on the RZA. You could have just focused on the RZA or ODB or Method Man and had like a 2-hour-long documentary.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go into that whole group and their history and their contributions to music that's still being felt today, and you would need more than one entry into that documentary. So I appreciate the fact that it's an actual docu-series.
Absolutely. And I noticed they showed it at Sundance.
That's right.
Because I remember asking Brad about it because he said I think they did have a screening, but I don't know if he was able to catch it because they had some long. Because I know that Michael Jackson documentary that's on HBO is a two-parter that's 2 hours each. So that's another 4-hour documentary, just like this one, because this is 4 episodes, an hour each.
Yeah.
So I like that they're doing these long-form documentaries that they're breaking up. But yeah, this is definitely worth the watch, man.
I'm gonna check that out this week.
Yeah, yeah, man. So that's my week in DORK.
Last week, since I wasn't here last week, I've been to the movies quite a bit. I caught. I don't know if I talked about Anna when the last time I was on. So I saw Men in Black. I saw Rocket Man. I saw Anna. I enjoyed. Men in Black have a ton of problems with, so I'm not gonna put energy into talking bad about that movie. I saw Rocket Man. I ended up enjoying that. I like what they did with the musical biopic formula and how they use a bunch of heightened realities, fantastical cinematic flourishes for it. I felt like that lent itself well to the subject matter in that character.
Yeah.
Anna, like I was really surprised about Anna. I dug that. I dug that movie. I dug what they did. I listened to you talk about it.
Last week.
Last week when I was editing that episode, and you're right. I liked and I was surprised by the narrative structure of that film. I was surprised by the young lady who plays the title character and her performance in that film. Not just from a dramatic standpoint, which is important because I have to buy into that, her plight or whatever. I have to buy into that character to be emotionally invested, but also her physicality, and how they showcase that. Now, if they use a stunt double, it was very hard for me to tell. And I'm someone who I pride myself on having a trained eye to be able to spot when they do a CGI face masking on somebody. Like she looked like that scene you talked about in the restaurant. that's in the trailer, where you get to see that within context, and then
really good.
It's even more powerful because you in the trailer you just see an action sequence, but in the movie you understand that this is her first mission. She's being thrown to the wolves,
exactly,
and she's kind of being screwed over.
Yep.
And so I don't know. It makes it more intense.
Yeah.
And in addition to the fighting, her purpose for being there is another element that's added on top of it. So it adds to the intensity of that scene. But anyway, I really enjoyed that film.
So what are you before we move on? Because I know like one of my, I don't want to say issues, but it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the film. Like we talked about last week. I know Brad mentioned it. Like how Luc Besson kind of maybe fetishizes certain elements of the femininity of how he uses like a lot of and I feel like his movie he had the right intention, especially now being in like the Me Too movement and trying to make a movie that really has like this female empowerment.
Yeah.
But it still feels like a little bit, I don't know. And I noticed it.
Yeah.
It didn't take away from my enjoyment of the film, but it's just something I noticed about his particular brand of filmmaking that I see in a lot of that. But I didn't know if you picked up on that or what your thoughts were on that.
I don't know. I don't know that I picked up on that. I will say that in the beginning, because it shows in the opening, she is plucked from the streets. She's like this someone who works in a market, scraggly hair and like just living her day to day, trying to survive on the streets in a market. She's plucked from that life and to be a fashion model. A talent scout finds her and is like, "Yo, you're beautiful. You need to come, be a famous model." And so the movie transitions into that particular lifestyle, and knowing Luc Besson and his affinity for women and models and stuff like that, I felt like, oh, okay, so it kind of felt exploitative. But when it's revealed when the true intentions of her and why she's there, when all of that's revealed, I was like, oh, okay, I see what he's doing. And, to have someone that looks like her, of her physical stature, she's a very slender young lady.
Yeah.
It was mentioned in the last episode, and I picked this up when I was watching it. She is that young lady, she does the motion capture for the princess alien character in Luc Besson's Valerian, the City of a Thousand Planets. And so she has a supermodel's physique. Like she's built like a super long, slender, skinny legs, skinny arms, or whatever, very slim. And so I felt like, well, her being a supermodel is not that far fetched, but how she fit into that world and she wasn't really into it. It's not something that she wanted to do or wanted to be there for. Yeah. But when you find out her reasons for being there, I don't know, it felt like, okay, I like how they used that. He wasn't just having her be a model for the sake of...
Exactly.
Just for the hell of it. Or he could have been, he could have been fetishizing, am I saying fetish? Fetishizing? Fetish?
Fetishizing.
Yeah, that.
I think that's what it is.
He could have been doing that. But to me, I don't know, I didn't look that far into it. I didn't get that.
Yeah.
If someone sees that in the film, I can't argue that. Perception is all based on the individual. I wouldn't argue against that. I wouldn't argue Brad against that, because I can see how someone could take it in that way. But for me, if Luc Besson were only having these beautiful looking women in the films and them not being strong characters, them having to rely on a man, or not having autonomy and not being in control of themselves, their bodies, their destinies, their fates, their actions, then I'd have an issue with it. Them being subservient or need, having a man be in charge. But I will give credit to Luc Besson for, like, in La Femme Nikita, in Leon, Matilda, even young Matilda, even in The Fifth Element, and also in Lucy, and also in Anna. Like, these are women who, they may be attractive women, but they're women who are ultimately the controllers and masters of their own fate, their own actions. They do what they feel is best for them, and I dig that.
Yeah.
You know, I dig that. And
Yeah.
so I say all that to say, like, I really enjoyed Anna. I saw Toy Story 4. I didn't I missed the review cast for that.
Dude, I want to talk to you about the opening scene, because I know you're big on like animation, or just like, you know, like the visuals.
Yeah.
Like that opening scene in the rain where they was trying to save
Oh,
RC.
yeah, the box. Yeah, outside.
Outside.
Yeah.
Dude, like I watched that opening scene and my mouth was like, I was like, yo, this shit looks
real,
damn near real.
That
like
mud, that water, the muddy water when he was spinning his tires.
Dude,
yeah.
I was like, yo, this may be some of the best Pixar animation I've seen.
Yeah.
The whole movie, but that opening sequence, and I meant to ask you about that, because I mentioned it a little bit on our review cast, but I was like, yo, like, I gotta ask D about that. That animation looks incredible.
When you remarked that you had went back to rewatch the original films and the original Toy Story, and if you look at the first Toy Story film, whether it be the human characters, yikes, or even just the environments, and you compare that to now, to Toy Story 4, to that opening, it's a tremendous feat that they've come leaps and bounds technology, not just technology wise, but it takes skill, it takes artistic talent and skill to be able to utilize technology to be even to realistically render this stuff like that. And so that studio has grown immensely, immensely in their talent and abilities and what they're able to do. So I agree, like that opening scene was incredible, and I mean, just the entire film was incredible. As far as a visual and technical standpoint, I wasn't excited to see that film at all. Like I ended up going to see it because I had every intention of being a part of the review cast so I could talk about it. So I didn't have any expectations, I didn't have any excitement, but I went in and ended up thoroughly enjoying that movie.
I love that movie.
Like, wow, I didn't need a Toy Story 4, but the one that I got, like, I was thrilled. I was pleased.
I love that movie.
I saw Annabelle Comes Home. I gave that 2.5 stars, and I'll leave that at that. But what I really want to talk about for my week in Dork really quick is Nicholas Winding Reference series on Amazon, Too Old to Die Young. Like you, scrolling through and seeing, oh wow, this is 4-part wu-tang documentary. Let me check this out. I was scrolling through Amazon trying to find something to watch, and I saw that. Now I had known about this for quite some time, that it was coming. That I saw the trailer for it a few months back, but I heard nothing else about it. I heard nothing about the release of it. Heard no reviews of it. So I don't know actually when it dropped on Amazon.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's been out for a while.
Really?
It may have been. Maybe like a month or so, maybe. Because
I've heard no reviews, no sites talking about it.
Yeah.
I will say this, man. So it's interesting because it's I want to say it's like 10 episodes, maybe, or 13 episodes. It's a full like series, right?
Okay.
But when you go to Amazon and you pull it up and then you see episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it shows you the title and it shows you the runtime. I'm looking at the different runtimes. The first episode is 1 hour and 37 minutes. The second episode is like 1 hour and 20 minutes. The third episode is like, no episode is less than an hour.
Really?
Except the final episode. The final episode is 30 minutes. So they're like movie length.
Yeah.
Right? Which I thought was interesting.
Did he direct every episode?
Yeah, it's just all him.
Wow.
Right? So I'm watching the first episode and I'm like, okay. I'm looking at that 1 hour and 37 minute runtime and I'm thinking it's going to be a whole bunch of movies. I would say 70% of that runtime is just slow pans.
Yeah.
And just lingering shots.
I've heard about that, where he likes to linger on people just kind of living their lives.
Is that what? I'm like, God, okay, so when Beat Takashi does it, right? When Takashi Kitano does it, when Kurosawa does it, and they have these lingering shots.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, and this is just my perspective, you know, if listeners, if you've seen this series, please hit me up on social media, hit us up. And let me know your points of view. But for me, like when we have those lingering shots, and I'll go back to Takashi Kitano, Beat Takashi, because he does them a lot.
He does.
For when he utilizes those shots, most of the time, if not all the time, they're reaction shots. Like a character has seen something, done something, or feels something. It's they're in a particular emotional state because something that has just happened or that they're about to do, right? So within context of that, knowing that something just happened, the character saw it, and now you're on his face, or he just had a discussion with somebody, and the other person left the room, and now the character, the shot is on him. You understand that, okay, that character is ruminating on what was just talked about, or what he just saw, what he just felt. So it makes sense, right? Because when you look at that, you go, damn, I wonder what he's thinking. Oh, he's probably thinking, oh, shit, he feels like that. Or, damn, he's probably sad, or he's probably upset, or he's going to be pissed. So you start to think, you're contemplating what he's thinking, right?
Okay, yeah. So it serves the story.
It serves that character in that moment. So in Never Too Old to Die Young, Too Old to Die Young is the title of the series. Like the show opens on a shot of a wall. You're looking at this wall, like a mirror on a wall. And it's on this shot for like 15 seconds, 20 seconons, right? And 15 to 20 seconds in movie time is a long time, right, for something static. Yeah. So then it slowly pans over. It pans over, like, and when I say slowly, I mean like slowly, right? And then you see a guy sitting in a car. And you're looking through the windshield. You're on the hood looking through the windshield. And this guy is just staring off. He's looking at something. And we're on him for a while. And then we cut to Miles Teller's character, right? Yeah. He and Lance Gross are two police officers. They're standing outside of their cop car. And there's talking. There's dialogue. And it's a slow Nicholas Winding Refn dialogue scene. Then we cut back to the guy in the car, sitting in the car looking out the window. The camera's on the hood of the car looking through the driver's side window. And then the camera slowly pulls back down the hood of the car. Like when I say slowly, I mean really slowly. And I'm thinking, okay, am I supposed to be noticing the cleanliness of the car, the paint job or whatever? Because it's really slow, right? So then the camera finally gets down to the end of the hood where the headlight is. And then it slowly pans over to the right. So now we're looking across the street. We see that car's in the parking lot. We're looking across the street, panning over to the right. And we see Miles Teller and Lance Gross are standing outside their cop car right across the street. Yeah. So now it's obvious this guy in this car has been watching them this whole time. Yeah.
You could have probably did that in like a minute.
Man, not even a minute. You could have did that in 5 seconds because it took a minute to do that, right?
Okay. It sounds like it took like 5 minutes.
But a minute in movie time is a long time, right? For a pan?
Yeah.
And, okay, if you're going to pan, and this is only my opinion, within the frame, there was nothing interesting. Like the composition, it was just looking across the street. There's a street, a car just passed by. There's a building, and then there's an open lot, and then there's the cop car sitting over there. Yeah. Like, if you're going to have a slow shot, for me, I need there to be something interesting, or I need some visual information within the frame, right? Yeah. But when it's just, I don't know. To me, I would just say this: like the first 15 minutes of that movie, two things happen: the conversation with him outside of that car, and a traffic stop with Lance Gross's character. They pull this lady over. And it basically established that Lance Gross and Miles Teller are piece of shit cops. They pull this lady over, harass her, and then let her go. Okay. That's the only thing that's 15 minutes of movie time. Like when that scene ended, I purposely looked at the timeline to see how much time had passed. It was 15 minutes. Like 15 minutes of movie time.
Yeah.
And the only thing that happened was that guy was sitting in the car.
Looking at them.
Camera pans back over to him. And then they get in the car and leave. And then they do the traffic stop. Miles Teller walks. Lance Gross is on her driver's side window. Can I see your driver's license and registration? Yeah. Miles Teller's on the opposite side, like the other cops normally do, the backup. They're on the passenger side. Yeah. Lance Gross gives Miles Teller the driver's license and the registration to take back to his car to run the registration. Miles Teller walks back to that cop car so goddamn slow.
Really?
It's weird. It's not even a normal pace. It's weird. It took me out of the movie because now I'm like, all right, this is clearly acting. He's being direct. He was directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. I want you to walk back to that car like really, really slow. Why? I have no idea, but it feels unnatural.
See, Dan, that's why I've never been a big fan of Nicholas Winding Refn. Is because it just feels like he deliberately is making these slow-paced movies, but there's no context or no reasoning behind it.
Now, the thing is, and I will say this again, if listeners, if you've seen this and you read somewhere, or or you took something different and you understand the reasoning for this, please let me know.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I don't understand. Like, when I'm watching it, I'm okay, this happened. I may not like it, but okay, why? I'm curious to know what the director is trying to evoke, what he's trying to say, and not like, what the fuck does he mean? But I genuinely would like to know, so that when I watch it, I can take it in context, and it may change my view of what I'm seeing and how I feel about it.
Yeah, see, I think of something like, because I know a lot of directors like to test the patience of their audience a lot of times, but I think of somebody like Stanley Kubrick, who I think does it in a way where he's actually doing it to tell. Like, you think of a movie like The Shining, because The Shining is deliberately paced, and that's paced kind of melodically. I think there's one
methodically.
Methodically.
It builds tension,
but and it builds tension throughout. But I mean, if somebody who isn't trained to watch a movie like that will look at something like The Shining and like, oh man, like this movie is just so damn slow. When it hits those beats where you're supposed to be terrified, it may not hit them the same way. But you can see Stanley Kubrick is building towards something. But with Nicholas Winding Refn, like, I just don't understand the reasoning. I mean, I can understand, like, I want to test the patient's audience, but why? For what? Like, what is this leading to? I don't. You know?
And so and a part of me is like, okay, is he trying to build suspense and tension? Like, what are they going to do to this woman? Because I could still, just by the previous conversation, when he pulls this lady over, I'm already like, what is he going to do to this woman? I didn't need Miles Teller taking 3 hours to walk back to that cop car. Like, I was already like, okay, you established in the previous scene that this dude is a fucked up dude, because he mentions having to murder this woman that he's cheating on his wife with because she's calling the house and she's going to possibly get him in trouble.
Oh shit!
Right. So you already established right there and there he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So to draw this traffic stop out for 10 minutes, it's a 10-minute traffic stop. And the way that they talk is so unnatural. It's so, do you know why I pulled you over? Long pause, long pause, long pause, long pause.
Yeah.
No. Like, that, to me, that's weird. Like, like in real life, people don't wait that long to respond to someone, right? So the dialogue scenes they take forever, right? And so I don't know, like, I feel like, I don't want to say it's pretentious. I don't want to say that, but it really feels self-indulgent.
Okay.
But I'm conflicted because at the same time, as an artist, you have every right to be self-indulgent. For me, when I draw, I'm indulging in my urge to convey this image that I have in my head and put it on this paper. So I will use stylistic strokes sometimes, or I'll keep it realistic to make it look real, to make it look like a life drawing. Or sometimes I'll do exaggerated poses and large comic book superhero framed bodies or whatever. So I'm indulging myself and my senses in how I depict this. So I feel like I have to apply that rationale if I'm going to claim it feels like he's being self-indulgent. But for me, I guess maybe just because of the cinematic language that I'm used to, or that I'm preferential to, it's just not my bag. And the crazy part is, I like Drive.
Yeah, me too. That movie.
Only God Forgives. I dig that movie too. But this one is, and because he's got 13 episodes to tell a story, he's 13? It's more than. It's 10 or 13. It's like a full series.
Crazy, and all of them are like over an hour. That's
except for the last one. The last one's 30 minutes, which is weird. I'm curious to see what that one is. But and here's the thing, like the stories are. I'm interested. Like I feel like I'm working at sitting through them because I want to find out what's happening. But just the way that he's telling the stories, I'm like, oh my God, dude, it's distracting.
I've listened to a podcast where somebody said the same thing about just the pacing of it, but they said like the actual story is actually a really compelling story.
It is. It's the only reason why I stuck with it.
Okay. How far along are you?
Because I just started the 3rd episode.
Okay.
It took me... It took me like 4 hours to watch the first episode, and the first episode is only an hour and 37 minutes.
That's crazy.
So watching it, I feel like Miles Teller walking back to that cop car.
Oh my god, yeah.
But what's going on? So okay, the gist of it, and I'll wrap it up. The gist of the story is Miles Teller is a cop, L.A. cop, and he's not a straight and narrow cop. He's pretty fucking shitty. He's a bad person, and his partner gets killed, and
Lance Gross.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he sees who did it, but he doesn't say anything. And then he's made detective. And so he's basically a not so nice person who's put in a position, given a promotion, put in another position of power within this organization and he's corrupt. Parallel to that, there's a story in Mexico that's happening. The guy that killed his partner is this young guy who that was a retaliation for a murder of this guy's mother. And Miles Teller is the guy that killed the mother. This all happens before the series even starts. Okay. Right? And so because he killed the cop in retaliation within his cartel organization, he's promoted. Okay. He's put in a position, in a higher position, and brought closer to the what do you call it? The head of the cartel.
Not the drug lord, but
well, he's a drug lord. But anyway, the head of the drug lord. Basically, I'm taking you under my wing. You're like a son to me because my son is fucking up, and you're the son I never had. So it's almost like Miles Teller and this dude's character are running parallel and share some similarities into. They're both not good people. Yeah, they both do something horrible, and then they're both given like this promotion. But then something happens within the department as far as corruption, and there's some infighting going on within the cartel that each of these characters are put in the middle of and have to navigate that. And they're ultimately going to collide at some point down the line. I feel like that's coming. So all of that's compelling because like what's going on with the characters and peripheral characters are very interesting. It's just the execution of it is fucking... I know. It's tedious. Yeah, man. It's tedious. Yeah. And so... I'm giving Nicholas Winding Refn the benefit of the doubt. For now, I'm pushing through it. I just hope that the rest of the series and the conclusion is satisfying enough that I feel like that time investment was worth it. That's my hope. Because if it ends up being a shitty ending, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be like, I sat through all that shit for nothing. So I don't know, but your mileage may vary because I know we have a bunch of our friends are fans of Nicholas Winding Refn's work, and like I said, I like his other stuff too. Valhalla Rising, I love that movie. And so, but this one feels like it's him at his most. Nicholas Winding Refn, like it's him like at the extreme, and your miles may vary with that, depending on your taste.
You should do what you did with the Netflix Marvel series and just skip to the last episode.
Bruh, when I tell you that has crossed my mind 13 times while watching the first and second episode, I shit you not, man. Like I've been so tempted to get, but I will say this: with what has transpired in this most recent episode, I kind of feel like, well, shit. I want to see. I want to see what happens next. Immediately happens after this, but immediately after that is going to be 3 hours from now because this shit is just going so freaking slow. Like, damn, like I don't know, like that performance choice is just not my bag. It just takes me out of the movie. Like, I'll ask you a question. And you'll just look at me for like 30 seconds and then answer. Who the fuck does that? Brian, you hear me talking to you? Answer me. Like, don't just stare at me.
Maybe as an actor, people like that because that challenges them as an actor. So
so Miles Teller, like if you watch the first, he's so blank. He's like, it's almost like Ryan Gosling's character in Drive. Okay. But to me, I don't know, maybe Ryan Gosling pulls that off better and comes off more enigmatic. But this one, it comes off as he's just one dimensional. He doesn't show any type of, and maybe this is to convey that this is a remorseless or emotionless or unsympathetic character. But for me, it doesn't come off as compelling, right? It doesn't come off as I don't know. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, I end up coming around to it because I don't want to hate it. I don't want to waste time on a series that ends up being shit, and I don't want to shit on this guy's work. So hopefully, I'm hopeful that because I will say again, what's there, the story is compelling and it's interesting, and there are interesting characters. So I'm just hoping that it continues to be that way, and everything escalates in a fashion that I find satisfying. But as of right now, just the execution and the performances, it's hard for me to give it, 5 stars or whatever. I know. But that's gonna do it for my week in Dork. Sorry for going on so long, ladies and gentlemen. Just making up for lost time. But when we come back from the break, our review cast is going to be for Danny Boyle's latest film, Yesterday.
Yep.
A film that I was pleasantly surprised by.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I will say that. So we'll be back after the break.
Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Our review cast for this week is for Danny Boyle's new film, Yesterday. The film stars, I don't want to butcher the name, Himesh Patel and Lily James.
Yes.
Himesh Patel, I've never seen him in anything before. Lily James, I've seen her in Baby Driver.
Yeah.
She's great in that.
She plays Cinderella, I think, in the
That's
Kenneth,
right.
in the Kenneth Branagh.
That's what I've seen her in. Yes.
Yeah.
Also that. And then Joel Fry plays Rocky. Joel Fry, for my Game of Thrones fans, he also played in that show. He was the guy that I think it was in the City of Marine who wanted to marry Daenerys.
Well, I don't know if it was Marine, but I know it was during the story arc for the Sons of the
Harpies, yeah.
And because I remember his father died or something, that he was trying to keep the traditions of wherever they were. It may have been Marine. I'm not sure, but
no, his father not died. He got put up on the cross.
Put up on the cross. Yeah. I think it was because Danny went to Yunkai. She went to Astapor. That's where she burnt the dude. Then I think they went to Yunkai. So I think it was Marine.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a pretty cool film. Like the concept of this film is a struggling musician. And I'm taking this from IMDb. A struggling musician realizes he's the only person on Earth who can remember the Beatles after waking up in an alternate timeline where they never existed. So, I'm going to get his name. I'm going to call him Jack. Jack is his name. Character Jack, played by Himesh Patel. So Jack is a struggling musician, and he's having a tough go at it. And on the night that he decides this is just not for me, because I'm unable to find success, is useless, he gets hit by a bus. There's a worldwide power outage, and in the dark, he's riding his bike, and a bus hits him, smashes his teeth out. That's in the trailer. He wakes up, and as also in the trailer, the Beatles don't exist. No one knows who they are. Yeah. And once he comes to the realization of this, he decides that he is going to find success as a musician by taking credit for their songs and their writing, and it takes him on this whirlwind of success and unrequited love and internal conflict about the honesty of his honesty or dishonesty about the entire situation. So it's like a romantic comedy with that high concept. So we're gonna do the good, the bad, the ugly. The good, starting off.
So the thing that I loved about this movie was the premise. I love the idea of the fact that there's one guy who remembers the legacy of this classic band that kind of changed the shape of music. So I think the concept was something that we really haven't seen before, kind of told in this way. So I really like that idea. I like the setup of it as well, with, you know, having this global blackout and then him getting hit and waking up and then slowly coming to that realization when he kind of drops these little jokes or little hints that that's like these Beatle references, but nobody picks up on it, and then he slowly starts to realize, like, wait a minute, you guys, like, and the fact that he thinks it's this elaborate joke. I thought about you because I was like, that sounds like something D was trying to do, like play these elaborate jokes, but and then like I feel like I'm Jack Malik, who is like, all right, man, when are y'all going to end this shit? Like, stop it. It's like for real, just stop the joke. But so yeah, I thought the premise, the setup was really, really great.
What do you think about the chemistry and the relationship between Jack and Lily James' character?
Her character Ellie. I thought they had really, really good chemistry together, and the progression of like how. Because at first you see that they're just friends, and she's like his manager, but she's almost like a part-time manager because she works as a school teacher.
Yep.
So then when this whole thing happens, when nobody remembers the Beatles, and he starts to really starts building this fame from these songs, and he wants to bring her along, and she's like, look, I'm a teacher, I can't do this. But then there's a moment when she's in his bedroom, and she confesses her feelings that she's always had for him.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, like her performance, I really dug her performance. We'll get to some other stuff too, because there were some other scenes between the two of them that I thought was played really, really well. But kind of thinking about it now, I know I talked to you a little bit about that before you saw the movie. I'm thinking more about the scene
in the train station?
At the train station, at the table.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if I want to consider that part of the bad, but we could talk about it a little bit more. It was just one of my concerns about the film. But regardless of that, I thought her performance, especially in that scene, was really, really good and really made me sympathize with her and her character throughout. So I like a lot of that stuff. Our Game of Thrones guy, the roadie, I thought he was Rocky.
Yeah.
I thought he was really, really funny.
Yeah.
His introduction, his opening scene, where he was just talking about, oh man, yeah, I'm doing great, and then like he forgets to give the guy the guitar and gets fired right on the spot.
He just left too. Like, damn, Rob.
I thought that was really, really funny. I'm not the biggest Ed Sheeran, is that his name?
Yeah, Ed Sheeran.
Fan. I thought he was really cool.
He was great in the movie.
I thought he was really, really good. Yeah. Basically playing himself. And a lot of times when you have actors playing themselves, they play like this heightened version of themselves, or like the persona that the public has of them. Yeah. Because then you can really kind of have fun with that. Yeah. And I thought he really did a good job of doing. Oh my God. And Jack's parents.
Oh yeah.
They were hilarious.
They were really good. They were really good.
They were hilarious. And I love like his mother and his father. Like no matter how well or how much fame he gets, like his parents are like almost unimpressed.
It's just Jack. He's always just Jack.
Yeah, like even when he's about to have this big concert, his father comes in the back and is like, yo, where are the sandwiches at?
Are you gonna eat those? No, you can have them. He's like, oh, this is a good day.
So I thought his parents were hilarious. Yeah. So yeah, man.
And I appreciated they weren't like the stereotypical, you know, you need to give up this dream. Why don't you follow in the family tradition of whatever? Yeah. Or, you know, I really enjoyed the take on his parents.
Yeah. So I thought a lot of, like I said, I thought the characterizations, the chemistry between a lot of different characters was really great. The romance was great. The concept. I mean, it was great hearing some of the. I'm not that familiar with a lot of the Beatles music, especially like if you deep dive into a lot of their catalog. Yeah. But I knew some of their songs, so it was kind of cool to hear some of that. Yeah. But yeah, man, I really thought it was a fun, lighthearted movie. It was a good time, man.
Okay. For my good, I'll just piggyback off what you said. Like, as far as the concept, in addition to which I was surprised with when this happened and when this was introduced more than once, but in addition to the Beatles not existing in this alternate timeline, the movie also posits that there are other, like Coca-Cola, like he goes to ask for a Coke and the person doesn't know what that is. There's another scene where he's stressed out. He's like, man, I could really use a cigarette right now. And Rocky was like, a what? And every time, so initially when he mentions the Beatles, they cut to that scene that's in the trailer of him going to Google. So you see the shot of Google getting typed in, and then it pans over to the result, and it's not what he's looking for.
Exactly.
So when he asks for the Coke, and you get a shot of the Google being entered the search, and then it pans over, and there's no
like Pablo Escobar.
Right, yeah, Pablo Escobar. And then when there's a cigarette, when he asks for the cigarette, and the dude was like, "What's a cigarette?" Then you cut to the Google entry, and then it pans over, and it's like some city or country cigarette or something like that.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the Harry Potter one, like made me fucking die, man.
Know.
So I that was fun. Like that whole idea is fun because you're like, man, what else doesn't exist, and how does that thing not exist affect the world or somebody else? Like you could have so many spin-off movies based on this.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That was interesting.
So I thought that was really cool. And then the Hamish Patel, like I'm curious to hear Lisa's thoughts because I thought he's a great singer. He's a great musician. Like he has a great voice because it seems like he's doing all of his own singing.
Yeah, especially in some of those quieter scenes where you just him kind of just singing like a cappella or singing just at the piano, more so than like some of the concert stuff. That could have been manipulated, kind of, but
when he's singing a cappella, like with him and just acoustic versions of those songs, like I thought he did a really good job. And let me see, I like the pacing of it. I didn't feel like it was. I felt like it moved at a decent clip. And I feel like they, the character resolutions. I was happy with how it ended. I was surprised. I thought it was going to end a certain way, but then it ended up ending kind of like how I thought. But then what they did with it, I found it really uplifting and I found it moving. So I enjoyed it, man. Like I can't say that I was super excited to see it.
Yeah.
It was almost like Toy Story where I was like, all right, well, I got to watch it because this is our review cast. But then I ended up coming away from it, like really having a good time with that movie.
It's interesting, too. I mean, think about Danny Boyle and his filmography because, I mean, it doesn't really seem like something that he would normally take on. But going to your point about when we learn about like cigarettes and other things that don't exist in this world and how he would cut to Google. One thing I really liked, and you notice this in a lot of Danny Boyle films, is like the editing and how certain sequences, the way they're paced and the way he's able to cut and edit of certain sequences. And even when he's like trying to come up with the lyrics of the Beatles and he's creating the music and trying to do the arrangements of the song, there was one particular scene in this bedroom that I thought was edited in such like a Danny Boyle style. That
when he's going to the sticky notes and stuff like that.
The stuff that we've seen in like say Slumdog Millionaire. So I thought that was interesting to have that style in like a romantic comedy film. So I thought that was interesting too, just seeing Danny Boyle's take on this.
You know what? Now that you mention it, I guess that would go into my good is that maybe that didn't stick out to me consciously, but maybe subconsciously it was there. But the fact that you have a director who, like you see, you look at his filmography, it's so varied, right?
Trainspotting, 28 Days Later, like all this.
And for him to do a romantic comedy and it not feel like a director for hire did this movie, you could feel the director, you could feel his take on it, but it's not overwhelming. It's not distracting. It's not used. It's not used as a bunch of like editing gimmicks and things like that. It's just and the concept itself doesn't overpower the movie, and it doesn't. It's not crushed under the weight of this concept. The movie, the execution of it, I felt like was really good. And then the two characters that earlier on you think, oh my God, they're gonna
remembers the Beatles as well.
Like
that's what I thought too.
I thought that was really surprising because I thought that scene was gonna play out like, okay, where you have an ultimatum, you either tell them or you give us some money or we're gonna do it. But how that scene played out and what they symbolized and the point that she made, I found that surprising and touching. Like I didn't even consider that, but when she said it, like I was like, damn, like that's true. Like, because I was feeling like it made me conflicted. Like, is he wrong for what he's doing? Is he right for what he's doing? But when she gives her argument, I'm like, well, damn, like he's kind of doing us a service and keeping this music alive. Because if no one knows and no one claims it or no one sings it, then these brilliant pieces of art
just
go away. They fade into oblivion. And music, and the movie doesn't necessarily directly imply this or state this, but just personally, like, I know for a fact that music has the power to change lives.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, we were just talking about Yardy and how the power of music can bring peace, right? Yep. So music is something that, you're going through a tough time and you feel depressed or down. You'll put a song on that'll motivate you to get up and get out your house. You get out the house and you bump into somebody, or you take advantage of opportunity that ends up changing your life, and you had that opportunity and you met that opportunity because you left the house because you listened to that song, right? So music is a powerful thing. So when that lady posits that what you're doing is we thank you for it because the world needs to hear these songs. It changed my it changed my perspective. I was like, well, damn, like, is he not wrong for doing this? So I don't know. I like that movie puts that out there, and it lets you come up with it, how you feel about it on your own.
It's interesting too, because I thought that was actually going to go in a different direction. I didn't know how. I didn't know if I wanted to talk about that in the good or the bad part of this review. But I guess we could talk about it in the good, because it kind of subverts that. Because I thought that they were actually going to take the movie in a different direction, where it almost felt like it could have been more of a thriller, kind of, sort of, as much as you can with a romantic comedy, where you have these other people who remember the Beatles, and you don't know what their intentions are, as far as, like, are they going to out him or whatever the case may be. And I thought, okay, you could take this in a direction that could make this a little bit more suspenseful. But
actually, even up until that point,
it is
still, for me, at the very least for me, it was suspense, because I was like, oh shit, they're gonna out him when they're in the press conference and she holds up the yellow submarine. I was like, oh, it's a wrap for him. Like, so he's about to get found out, and then he's going to have to, admit it to the girl, and she's going to leave him or whatever. I thought it was going to go that typical route. But
and I like when they have that meeting with the three of them, and she says, like, look, we remember it as well, but we're not musically inclined, so we thank you for doing this. And it does kind of have this sweet sentimentality to it that I thought was really endearing to the story. And I mean, at first I was like, oh man, I thought it was going to go, but you're right, looking at it now, I really like that it did go that route, because it makes sense. Because, like I said, I mean, because I'm not musically inclined, and if we didn't have an artist, I was like, oh man, if somebody was able to bring it back. I was like, oh man, it's like I'm not the only one. It's like somebody else, and they're holding on to the music. So it makes sense that they were able to do that, and
it also puts Jack in a position to, for his character. So if they out him, then Jack doesn't have an opportunity or have a moment to be honest and show his true character. But because they didn't out him and he chose to out himself, that just spoke volumes and showed us that he has a good character. He's a good person, because that was the hard right thing to do.
Exactly.
And so if they out him, he doesn't have that obstacle to overcome of the fear of being outed, or the fear of being honest and what will people say, or I will lose in success. He doesn't have the opportunity to, sacrifice all that stuff. For the sake of honesty, because he's a good person.
Exactly.
So I appreciated that wasn't these two people's job to do that. It was on Jack.
It was on him
to do that,
to be able to do that. And I like that too, because throughout the film, he does struggle with that guilt of trying to taking these songs on as his own. Because he does, at some points in the film, feel like a fraud. Like, this fame doesn't belong to me, because these aren't really my songs. And you can see him struggling with that guilt. Something else I did want to talk about in the good was also, and I mentioned to you, like, when we were talking on the phone about this, was how it represents the music industry in different eras. Because, you think about the Beatles, like that one scene where they were having like that meeting at the record label with the guy from Game Night, the black dude from Game Night. Where
that's what he was in. I was like, man, what is this dude?
I know.
God damn.
So it was like when they're looking at like the covers of the album. So
Yeah.
you're looking at, you know, Sgt. Pepper's and Abbey Road and the White Album. It's like, you know, this ain't going to work because such and such. But those are classic album covers that the Beatles created back in the 60s.
Yeah.
But, you know, you look at it now and you got all these different people who want to bring their ideas in.
Yeah.
But you look at the Beatles back in the 60s and it just... And I think they could have went further with that concept on as far as like how the music industry is different now and how you have so much input from executives who don't really know about music as opposed to back like 50 years ago when you had artists that were able to kind of like just do their own thing and just there was no filter, you know, had to go through all these different things, you know, to put an album out. So I don't know. I like that those questions that they bring up, you know. So I thought they could have went a little bit deeper, but I did like that they did talk about that.
Another thing I thought they could have went deeper on kind of speaks to that is that how a time period and the society in that time period dictates how things are received. You know, the Beatles were as big as they were and what they were because of how they were received by the people in that time. And the people during that time period when they were popular and when they were at the height of it received them in that way because of what was going on in their life at that time, what was going on in society, you know, socio-political, socio-economical stuff, like all that stuff. It informed what that music meant to them at that time, right? So it was huge. Fast forward to now, our society, the millennials or whoever, we have our own era and things and stuff that we go through that dictate how things mean to us. So, you know, when that guy, the executive is in that board meeting and he's like, man, this Abbey Road cover, I see it's just a street though. Like, what does that mean? Like to him, because of what we're accustomed to, because of what's popular, because of the music that's out, because of, you got to think like now in our society of social media, a bunch of shit that happened and came out back then and were a hit or whatever would play totally different to the people of this age and era because we have a certain expectation, we have a certain, you know, there's a voyeuristic quality that permeates through everyone's lives now. We are so interested in reality shows and people going live on social media. Like just our perception of what's important to this generation is different than, you know, back then. So I feel like that movie, because there was a certain point when he sang one of those Beatles songs, and to the people who were listening, it was just like, you know, what's the big deal? Like, it's okay. Like when he was trying to sing it to his parents, like they were so distracted by everything else. Like when he sang the first one, his buddy was like, yeah, it's okay, and that girl was like, it's no Coldplay, right? But understandably, you know, in her defense, you know, that song didn't mean to her what it meant to Jack or what it meant to a Beatles fan who knew those songs, because in her life, firstly, she grew up without the Beatles in that reality. And then whatever she went through, there were other artists that spoke to those things better than, you know, than what the Beatles spoke to or were speaking about, right? And so, I don't know, I feel like that's a very interesting idea that will probably have taken that movie in a totally different direction if they had delved into that a lot more. But it was something that I noted when, you know, certain people wouldn't go apeshit over the songs that Jack was singing, and Jack would get frustrated. Like, what are you talking about? I just need y'all to shut up and focus. This is a classic song. Like, this is, you know, and them not understanding and not having that same insight. And so, I don't know. I find that interesting too.
Yeah, that's
all right.
Cool.
What about the bad?
Just a couple of different, just two that I can think of. One, Kate McKinnon. You know what? Like, and it seems like she always, and I don't know, she's like this in every movie that she's in. She does like her Kate McKinnonisms.
She has a stick.
She has a style.
She has a stick, yeah.
But she does it in every movie that she's in. And I don't know if it's just that directors are scared to direct her. I don't know what it is because ultimately, at the end of the day, it comes down to Danny Boyle saying, like, look, this is the performance that I wanted. And I can't say because it just feels like she's in a different movie. And I'm just like, this can't be what... Or maybe it was. I don't know. Or maybe people hire her because they want her to do her thing.
That's my thoughts.
But to me, it just... And I like Kate McKinnon, but it just feels like she's just doing the same thing in every movie that she's in.
Yeah, she's one of those... She's like an Adam Sandler. Like, people hire him and they want him to do his shtick. They want him to... Because he has that unique type of shtick, you know? Like, and unfortunately, I agree. Like, it doesn't jive with the rest of the movie. Everyone else's style of acting, hers has a extra heightened sense of reality. Like, so she feels like a character, more like a caricature more than an honest character in the film. So I agree.
Yeah, because it works. Like in Ghostbusters, I think she's also kind of doing that same type of thing.
Yeah, basically the same.
But it kind of works there a little bit better. And
because everyone else, like Kristen Wiig is kind of doing her thing. Melissa McCarthy is doing her thing. Chris Hemsworth is being fucking amazing in it. So you know, it's only right that Kate McKinnon get to do her thing in the film. But in this one, you know, you don't. Lily James, she's not doing a shtick. She's being Ellie. You know, Jack is being Jack. Yeah. Kate McKinnon is being Kate McKinnon, pretty much, in the film. Yeah, and that's where I think it kind of stands out.
Yeah. I guess my other point is going to. I guess we can have a little conversation about this. The conversation that Ellie and Jack have at the train station before he has to get on, or the plane before they have to leave, and she basically tells him like, "Look, I waited 10 years for you," and basically giving him the ultimatum at that time.
Yeah.
Watching the movie. I was really sympathizing with Lily James because she gave a great performance in that scene.
Yeah.
And so I was really like sympathetic towards her. But then like I was telling you, like once you step away from the movie and I look at it within context a little bit, it's like okay, is
that fair?
Is that fair? Because it's like, look, he can go out and make this money. Like, why can't he just leave, make this money, and then come back and be like, look, we could still be together.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know. And then, like, the whole triangle romance with the other guy, like his first manager or somebody.
Yeah.
And then, like, how that just ends. At the concert where he was like, you know what, I've always been number 2. So
Gavin.
Gavin.
Yeah.
Go ahead and take her. And it's just like that just felt contrived just to continue the story.
Yeah.
So really it was that in conjunction with just that conversation at the table where it just felt like, was it right for her to give him that ultimatum when I don't know.
That felt like that was like the script. That was the screenplay. Like, you know, to put that character in a dramatic situation, have to make a choice. It felt like that. It didn't feel realistic because I didn't feel like it was fair either. Because truth be told, you know, the movie doesn't. When you first meet them, the movie doesn't do a good job of setting up the fact that, yo, I felt this way about you all along. You should have known. Because when you first meet them, they seem like they have a platonic, like, yo, that's my buddy, that's my homegirl, and yo, that's just my homeboy. Like, nothing, it's not implied that, you know, there's anything beyond that, right? Like, she's super supportive of him, but you don't have to want to be with somebody to be super supportive with them. Like, I'm super supportive of you. Like, I got a bunch of friends that I'm super supportive of, but I don't want to be with them. It doesn't mean I want to be in a relationship.
It doesn't have to be exclusive.
So I don't understand, like, how because she implies that you should have known. I've been waiting this whole time for you, but we don't see any instances of like her dropping hints that he just wasn't getting.
Yeah, so until she admits it, like when they're in their bedroom. But other than that, outside of that, there's nothing there that would suggest that.
And in that scene, again, I feel like it's the script. Yeah, I can feel the script being there because if she says that to me. And there are people like, come on downstairs. Excuse me, y'all. I just need 10 minutes. This is very important to me. So just chill out. Like, there's nothing. It's nothing to holler downstairs and say, hey, hang on, everybody. Right?
Yeah.
So I felt like that could have happened, but it doesn't happen so that it's left it's left unrequited. It's left unopened. I mean, it's like, they don't deal with it, and it's unanswered. So you can have that conversation
later on
at the train station, right? So that I didn't agree with either.
So that's why, like, I mean, I thought they had great chemistry, but again, going to the script, I think the way the script handles the romance aspect of it, it just feels like it kind of falls apart. Yeah, where it's just kind of hard to buy into it a little bit more. Yeah. Even though I think they have great chemistry together, and I think that's the one thing that kind of holds the film together is just their chemistry. But
because once like, once he does the thing at the concert at the end and they run off together and you see them together and they're finally, let's do this. Like I'm happy. I'm like, oh man, they're good. And then you see flash forward and they got the kids and they're happy.
And
I'm like,
and
it was
but
great.
It's just like, but how they get there. It's like, So those are probably my biggest concerns or issues with the film. Yeah.
For the sake of brevity, I would say that'd be my bad too.
Okay.
That'd be my bad. That was the only thing. Actually, all of it. Kate McKinnon feeling like out of place. And those two story beats, those two narrative beats, the bedroom scene, that talk, and then the discussion at the train station. All right. What about the ugly?
I guess the only ugly is like him losing his teeth.
Bruh.
And then you see, like, because in the trailer they just kind of show, and in the trailer it almost looks like a mouthpiece that they put into his mouth, but like when he's in the hospital and he opens his mouth, and you can actually see the holes where his teeth. Like, it was just like, oh man, that shit must have hurt. Oh man,
I agree. That's that'd be my ugly too. Yeah, damn. But he got some new ones, though.
He did. He had a good dentist. He had a good dentist.
Yeah. Oh, man. And it was so funny, though. Like, that's how you know you got a real friend, because the first thing they did when they seen him was, oh, man, your shit look jacked up. Let's take a picture. I'm going to post this shit. Like, God damn. That sounds like some shit I would do to Brian.
I know.
Damn, dog. What happened to your tooth? Let me take a picture.
Oh, my God, man. Yeah, that's terrible.
Man. All right. But you know what? So if you haven't seen the film,
it's worth watching.
Go check it out. I don't think we spoiled it too much. There's still some stuff there to be discovered, but also
our review cast always spoilers.
Yeah, but we did spoil some stuff, but I don't think we spoiled it too much. I still think that if you haven't seen it, you should definitely go check it out. The usage of music in the film is great. And Himesh Patel has a great voice. He does a lot of there's some concert performances, like 2, I think. But there are most of it is him either singing a cappella or just acoustic accompaniment with him just playing a guitar, and he's really good at it. And so the characters are fun. Everyone's performances are great. The direction of it is great. There are some issues with the script narratively, but other than that, I think it's a worthwhile time at the theaters. So it makes me interested in seeing like what Danny Boyle does next, whether it be something of this ilk or I just read an article that says he has an idea or a script for 28 months later, which might be his next thing. And I will say, even though that is a totally different genre and vibe from this film, because he is able to weave in and out of genres and different styles of films, I'm excited because of Yesterday, because his last film wasn't like Yesterday. Trainspotting is not like Yesterday. 28 Days Later is not like Yesterday. And so because he can do films in different genres, I feel like it makes me excited for whatever he does next, whether it be something else in this genre or whether he hop back into the horror suspense with his 28 Months Later. So check the movie out. Hit us up on social media and let us know what you thought. You can follow the podcast at ItModcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. MouthDork is at MouthDork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untappd. Wife Dork is at Sidewalk Siren and at Bake Dork on Twitter and Instagram. She's also at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd. Brian is at The Turtle Dork on Twitter, at The Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias. That is going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. And until next time.